Games media would like you to believe that Stellar Blade is nothing but a mediocre gooner game. And honestly, I wouldn't blame you for falling for that narrative. Public discourse around the game has either been weirdos glazing the game for miraculously bringing back hot women to gaming, and then you got people who hate it and call people who enjoy the game pedophiles. I'm not even kidding. And of course, you have lovely people like this.
Oh my god, her moans are even crazier this time, and it's more smooth. Jesus.
Ugh. It goes without saying that all those guys suck and you shouldn't listen to them. But you should listen to me, because I'm a fat guy with a YouTube channel and too many opinions. Stellar Blade was made by Shift Up, a South Korean studio known for making gacha smut for smartphones. The game would be their first foray into making a real game, and a real game they made. It certainly paid off. Stellar Blade sold extremely well on the PS5 and had a spectacular launch on the PC a couple weeks ago. In fact, recently, news of a sequel has been announced. Stellar Blade is an interesting beast. It has the fast-paced action combat of a traditional spectacle fighter, but it doesn't quite hit the heights of the combo-based chaos that a game like Metal Gear Rising or DMC has. Instead of juggling opponents to oblivion, the game expects players to master dodging and parrying, which of course exists in the genre, but it's usually not quite as emphasized as it is in this game. Stellar Blade also has some light resource management, similar to something you'd find in a more technical spectacle fighter, like Monster Hunter or the many Souls-likes. I suppose one could argue that Stellar Blade is a Souls-like with no stamina bar and a heavy emphasis on parrying and dodging, but I would retort with,
"Shut the hell up, you retard. Not everything is a Souls-like."
Eve's combat utility primarily revolves around the use of her sword, the Blood Edge. The sword has a light attack and heavy attack. As with basically every action game in existence, you can string together your light and heavy attacks to use different moves. Aside from these two attacks and their various combinations, Eve's arsenal includes beta skills. These are powerful dedicated attacks that require beta energy to execute. Beta energy is gained from damaging as well as perfect parrying enemies. Alternatively, burst skills exist, which are another powerful extension of Eve's arsenal. Burst energy is gained through perfect dodges, or executing repulse charges. Parries and dodges for the most part are self-explanatory. Right before the enemy hits you, you can either parry an attack or dodge away from it. Consistent perfect parrying will result in the depletion of the enemy's balance bar. This opens them up for a retribution attack, which does massive damage. Learning timing and the conditions in which you should dodge and parry is crucial. Luckily, the game is pretty straightforward. There are certain attacks that must be dealt with in a specific way. They're color-coded, so it's pretty easy to anticipate what you need to do. If it's yellow, you just dodge out of the way. If it's red, be prepared to parry or dodge multiple attacks. If it's blue, you dodge forward. If it's purple, you dodge backwards. Alright, it's good enough. Go make me a sandwich or something, bitch.
I'm leaving you.
Also, there is a gun in this game. I don't really use it too much outside of the designated gun sections. There are a few different ammo types you can use to change things up, but I didn't find the control scheme intuitive at all. The gun just doesn't output enough damage to be worth using it, and having to manually aim like a third-person shooter makes it less than ideal to use as a way to string together your combos. It should be noted that the alternate bullets are somewhat powerful, but they have very limited ammunition, so I rarely found myself using them. Aside from the gun, Stellar Blade's combat is solid as it comes. It's fast, it's fluid, the combos are fun to execute, parrying and countering feels great, especially after you crush the enemy's balls after parrying 3 attacks in a row. I do think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity with the lack of aerial-based combat or chances to juggle even the smaller enemies. My best guess is this was an intentional choice to keep players on the ground so they'd have to continuously engage in the parrying and dodging.
There are 2 level design philosophies in Stellar Blade: linear and semi-open world.
Linear areas are closer to your classic action games. The path is pretty straightforward, with offshoots that have hidden upgrades, chests, or shortcut doors that can be unlocked for faster travel. Open world segments are basically the same thing but at a larger scale. The open world areas have a map which can be used to fast travel to any location that has a phone at it. The smaller areas don't use this map, but you can still skip around using the phones. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of the lack of maps for the linear segments. It just kind of feels like a weird oversight to have it in one part of the game, but not the other. Stellar Blade uses a camp system that's similar to the bonfires you would find in a Dark Souls game. They're basically a checkpoint that can be used to save the game, heal the player, upgrade their gear, buy shit, and respawn a bunch of enemies. The location variety is somewhat weak. The 2 open world areas I visited were basically the same biome, desert and wasteland. Not much of a difference between these 2. The linear segments don't fare too much better either, with areas that feel very similar to each other. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the game and I'm finally seeing a more unique area, but that's 3/4 of the way through the game. I found most of the areas in this game to be fine to traverse, but once you start having to jump from platform to platform, things can get somewhat frustrating. Especially the areas where you're expected to be more meticulous with your movement. Eve wasn't designed for precision platforming, so you'll find yourself landing on a platform and then proceeding to walk off the edge into oblivion. Luckily, these segments are pretty short, but they still suck ass. I also am not a fan of the overly liberal use of yellow paint. It's lazy practice on the developer's end, and at best it downplays the capabilities of the audience. At worst, it causes bad habits to form. Sure, we gamers might be racist, misogynistic bigots, but we're not retarded. There isn't much I can say about the art direction. I'm pretty neutral on realistic stylization in video games, and Stellar Blade doesn't really do anything too notable aside from hot women and body horror shit. The soundtrack, on the other hand, is absolutely killer. Silent Street is a hauntingly beautiful track that somewhat reminds me of the Phantasy Star Online 2 OST. Then you have something like the Second Wasteland theme, which is a post-rock fan's wet dream. The combat music is also solid. Abaddon was the first boss fight in the game, and its theme definitely left an impression. I wasn't expecting to hear dubstep in a game from 2024, but fuck, this shit goes hard. I can't say too much about the story because I haven't completed the game, but unlike the combat, I'm not very impressed. Players take the role of Eve, a member of the 7th Airborne Squad. a military unit dedicated to eliminating the alien threat known as the Natibas. During the planetary descent, all but one of Eve's squad members is killed, and then that other squad member is also killed. A day later, Eve is assisting some guy named Adam.
Holy shit, did they just reference Christian theology in my Japanese video game?
Adam asks Eve to help him obtain a hypercell. In return, he will help Eve locate the Alpha Natiba, and possibly the same Alpha Natiba that killed her commander. It's not a terrible story. The overall themes and stuff are there. It's more that the characters feel off in some way. A good example would be Eve's relationship with both Adam and Lily. Almost immediately after meeting Eve, they're acting as if they've known her for years, but they haven't.
Even in the darkest times, it's always safe to bet on human survival instinct.
So, where do we go?
No time for breaks. Typical Eve.
These phrases aren't used when speaking to someone you met 2 months ago, much less 12 hours ago. From what I've seen, the plot is fine, but the characters, specifically their dialogue with each other, is laughably bad.
Characters drive your story, so when they're not well written or downright suck, it detracts from the narrative. Luckily, I don't play Stellar Blade for the story. I play Stellar Blade for the combat.
I bet you thought I was gonna say I play it for the hot women. Well, I don't. That's just an added bonus for me. But for others, it's clearly the selling point. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Nano suits. These are Eve's primary outfits. There's a pretty large variety of options here, ranging from latex bondage gear to bikinis to biker chick attire. My personal favorite Nano suit is sporty yellow.
I don't know, bro. I just like bitches and oversized hoodies.
Followed up by this oversized sweater. Aside from the Nano suits, you can also accessorize and change Eve's hair. Honestly, the whole concept of dressing up your main character isn't really new. There's also equipment that modifies stats but doesn't alter appearance. I'm not gonna get too into those. Overall, my initial impressions of Stellar Blade are positive. I was a bit worried when some people were calling it a Souls-like, but that just seems to be the go-to descriptor for any action game with a slightly higher than easy difficulty curve these days. Sure, the story is held back by the shitty character writing, but the combat feels clean and precise, and that's why I'm here. If you're interested in Stellar Blade, I'll have a link to the game in the description below. Feel free to check that out. I have one more thing to say before we depart for today. If scantily clad characters are the sole defining trait of a porn game, then I hate to break it to you, the vast majority of the gaming medium qualifies as porn games. God of War would be a porn game. Hell, Golden Axe on the Sega Genesis would be a porn game. The same people who are blasting Stellar Blade as a porn game are the same people who are celebrating bare sex bestiality in Baldur's Gate 3. You can't expect any consistency from these people. My name's Nihilistic Nerd. I'm going back to bed.